Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so
Thank you so
my
much.
voice is
Happy
Yes.
Republic Day.
yeah. So I think that I'm sure my voice is audible, and after this detailed introduction by Dr. Jagdamba Prasad ji, the Assistant Regional Director from Regional Center Dehradun, we are now in a position to discuss and go into the briefings of all the things that we have in these two units, unit number 5 and unit number 6 of this of this ECP, Extended Contact Program. Right. So it is really wonderful to see that most of the participants have joined here. And since it is the last, or I must say that second last session of this ECP, so I will try my best to make it more meaningful and really more informative, and so that you may just gain a lot of experience, in hand experience as well, over the various topics that we have to discuss today. Right. So in between, what I have done is that I have almost, I can say that about 90 minutes. So I have divided into two parts, 45 and 45 for first and second presentation of first and second unit. And in that, we will also try to discuss and go for some activities and go for certain questions and discussions also. Right. So let me start with the first one, and also try to share my screen so that you may get an idea that what we have to discuss today. So the first unit that we have to discuss is, just give me a few seconds. The first unit that we have to discuss today under the title, the let me just share the screen. Please tell me if it is visible to all of you. Just to write in the chat box, yes or no. Is it visible to you?
Yes, sir. Now I
Yes,
started.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So yeah. So this is the first unit, or this is the first content that we have to discuss. This is about sources of school funds. Now, this is a very interesting topic, and also very important also, because whenever we talk about the quality of education, or whenever we talk about the performance of schools, or management, quality management in schools or in educational institutions at any level, either it is the school level or at the university level or at institutional level also, or at the level of ministry also, then we generally or usually talk about the school funds. Right. So here the title of the unit is the sources of school funds. Means we have to discuss that, or I must say that we need to understand that what actually the funds are, what is the meaning of the school funds, and finally we need to discuss that what are the sources of various school funds. So to understand this particular topic, we need to come across the certain fundamentals, the certain points which are related to the concept of school funds. Right. We all know that to run any institution, when I say, it means that any institution belonging to any area or any co-domain, what is required is the funds. Right. Because without funds, it is really impossible. It is not possible to go ahead, because there are certain requirements, and particularly when we talk about the schools or any education institutions, then funding is more important. Funding plays a very important role, because it is only the funds which allow a principal, which allow a boss, which allow a chief, which allow the head of the institution to plan, execute, and carry over the certain things which are required there. So when we talk about the school funds, we need to understand that, is the screen scrolling also? Can someone tell me, please?
No,
No,
sir.
sir. It is on only first slide.
We are on the first slide. Okay, just give me 1 second. Let me just try to share it again. Yeah, this was the first one. And now again, yeah, now I think that it is visible to you, as well as it is moving also. So now these are the objectives of the unit. These are the particular objectives which the self-learning material that has been provided to you, it just talks about. So these are the important points, these are the important things that we need to discuss here. The first one is to understand the role of the state in providing the funds for the school. As I told you that, whenever we talk about the quality management, whenever we talk about the performance of the schools, it has to be studied, it has to be, we can say that, observed, right, with an idea that what actually is the role of the state. Because unless and until the state plays an important role in providing funds for the school, we cannot say that, yes, the school will perform better. So we will try to understand that how state plays an important role. Second objective which we have to discuss is to the different types of grants which are received by the schools. Now, when we say grant, then it means that, what is the assistance, the financial assistance that the schools received. Now, there are a number of sources, there are different types, so that we will discuss. And when we will talk about the role of the state, and then we will talk about the different types of the grants which are received by the schools, we will keep in mind the broader perspective, right? Why I'm saying the broader perspective? Because we can see that, if you talk about India, we have participants in this session from India and the Western Africa, or Africa, from two countries from Africa. So when we will talk about the role of the state, we know that India is a huge country. Similarly, like the Africa continent is a huge continent with different countries there. So each country, each state, and in India we have certain states also, some union territories also. So each state has a different role to play there, right? Because in India it is a matter of concurrent list. Education is a matter of concurrent list. So role of the state, then different type of grants. And the third objective that we have to discuss here is about the miscellaneous sources of the income of the school. So these objectives I have taken from the self-funding material that have been provided to you. So I hope that, you have already gone through that content, and it will make you easier to understand that what we are going to talk about. So, what was the title of the unit? Sources of school funds, and these are the objectives. So if these things are clear to you, that what we have to do in the next 45 minutes of this discussion, then you will be absolutely able to understand that, yes, these are the actual things that we have to discuss here. Now come to the important thing: state as the funding agency. Now, when I talk about state as the funding agency, it simply means that there is a question. There must be a question in our mind, and definitely that question is very important, because why state has to play the role of a funding agency? What is the reason that the state has to play a role of a funding agency? Why is it so that education requires, or the schools require, some funding, and why state has to play the role of the funding agency? This is a simple question, but important one. And the answer is absolutely simple, because unless and until the state is not going to fund the state is not going to fund the schools or the education system, then we cannot assume, or we cannot say that the status of education or the quality of education as being provided in that state will be of a better quality. Why is it so? Because education is not a profit making business, or education is not providing education, or the role of the school is not profit making. It is not a profit making company, or it is just not like a business where we have to go for earning something and then making a balance sheet, and finally we are going to say that, yes, this is the profit. Rather, this is important, really important. Rather, education is a social cause. Education is a, you can say that it is for the welfare of the people, welfare of the citizens who are residing in that state, who are residing in that particular nation. So this is the important thing, or this after whenever the you can say that the Constitution of India, or in other countries also, the prime of, say, the function of the state is to provide funding for better and good quality education, so that the index of living of the people may get increased. It may reach new heights. So this is the reason that a state has to play the role of a funding agency when we talk about education. Now, if we talk about the state as a when we talk about the state as a funding agency, then particularly this is the you can say that this particular structure has been taken from the country India, and similar things apply to the countries like Nigeria and other from the other countries from wherever participants has joined us. So here we have the three level structure, or you can see the three tier structure. The first is the central or the federal grants, then second is the state grants, and third are the local bodies. Now, to understand it in a better way, let me just take back to the unit. This is the particular unit that you have here, and I would like you to come across this unit along with me. So this is the unit number 5, sources of a school fund. The structure of the unit is already known to you, or we will discuss it a little bit later. In the introductory remark only, it just talks about that in the present era, education has totally changed. Providing education at the school levels has totally changed. It is not like the same which was in the 2 decades earlier. It is not the same as it was 1 decade earlier, and it will not be the same in the year 2030. Why is it so? Because the need and the demand, the requirement of the schools and the school going children, the school going teachers who are going there to teach them, and based on that, the role of the principals, the role of the management has changed absolutely. So everything has changed. So why not the system of education? Why not the sourcing? Why not the management of funds for the schools must change? So the requirement has changed, the needs have changed. We are living in an era of the ICT, that is information and communication technology. We are talking about the new education policies. We are talking about the inclusion. We are talking about the universalization of education. There are so many things. So a few have been mentioned in the introduction, and some more that I have discussed with you. Right. So first thing that we need to understand here. Let me again try to link it with the title of the unit: sources of school funds. So we need to understand that why schools need funds. Then we have to discuss that what are the sources. So the basic question is, the basic answer of the question is that school funds are required because without financial assistance we can provide education. Okay, but without providing financial assistance we cannot go for quality education. So there is a difference between providing education and providing quality education. And there is one more concept, that is the total quality management, which is known as the TQM. Right. So to provide good quality education to the citizens of any nation in the world, not only India, not only the countries from wherever the participants have joined, but across the globe, we need to understand that to provide quality education to the learners, to provide good facilities to the teachers, to provide or to create an environment for all those people, for all those who are engaged in the school system, we need to fund the education, right? So objectives I have already discussed. Now we can come to this particular part of the discussion, that is the state as a role of the funding agency. Dear learners, you all just know about the term the gross domestic product, the GDP of any particular nation. You also know about the human resource management. These are the terms which are frequently used when we talk about education. Now when I say these two terms, that is the human resource management or human resource development, or and second one is the gross domestic product, then we need to understand that economics of education, we are studying here economics of education because school funding is a part of the economics of education. So when we talk about the GDP, when we talk about the human resource development, we need to understand that the good is the contribution of the state towards education. The better is the planning by the state for education. The better are the sources, the reliable are the sources, right? And the broader perspective, if there is broader perspective towards providing education, then state will come ahead with open hands. Why with open hands? Because to set a benchmark of the quality of education in any state, in any country, we need to provide good facilities, we need to provide good managerial things to the schools. And that is only possible when we are contributing more towards the education sector in the form of the GDP. Generally, what happens that defense sector, the health sector, the other infrastructures, they get more GDP in of the total percentage. They get more GDP than the education. But in a vast country like India, in a large country like Nigeria, right? And we have certain other examples also. If you talk about Africa, then in the Western Africa, in the South Africa, we have some large countries. So we need to understand that whether a country is large area wise or population wise, there are two criteria: population and area. Or even if a country is small, like Singapore, like Japan, right? So we are taking other examples also. We need to understand that gross domestic product, the GDP, decides that what quality of education will be provided in the schools. So by here we have what we have discussed. By here we have discussed that when we talk about the funding of the schools, we need to understand that we are talking about the economics of the education. And if the economic condition, if the economic health of the budget which is sanctioned for the education is good, then definitely the health of the schools, the health of the educational institutions will be better, and so will be the health of the teachers. Health means I'm talking about the educational health, right? So the quality of the education is decided by the funding of the agency. Now come back to the PowerPoint, which I have discussed with you again. So this I have planned for you that we will move frequently to the PowerPoint presentation and then to the actual self-learning material that has been given to you. So we were at this point that state as a funding agency can be studied under three categories. The first is the central or the federal grants. Then second is the state grants. The letter T has been mistyped here, so you can just edit it later on. And third is the local bodies. Now, another thing what is important here is that then we will go to the details. This is the, you can say, this is the summary of the grants which are provided to the schools. So this I have designed in such a way that there are two types of colors which I've used here. The first is the red color. So you go with the red color in one go and with the black color in the another go. That is a grant in cash. And when we talk about grants in cash, then we have the following list: the proportionate grants, the gradation system. We will discuss about it one by one. Then deficit grant, capital grant, capitation grant, fixed grant system, and the negotiable ad hoc grant. Whereas the another type is the grants in kind, which have been mentioned as such, the grants in kind. So these are the two categories. Now to understand this, let me take you again to the self-learning material of yours. So what is the federal grant? So when we talk about the federal grants, see, what is the central or the federal grants? The central or federal grants is that grant which is provided directly by the central government. Now, when we say that in a huge country like India, I'm just taking the example of India, then we will go to some other countries also to make a comparative study. Now, when the central government or the federal government, like in the United States of America, they are providing funds to the school, the financial assistance or the grants to the school. You may just name it by your choice. You may say it grants, you may just say it financial assistance, you may say it as a budget. So this is good. Central or federal grant is good. But the problem is, the issue is, the limitation is, many a times this grant is not given properly or is not used properly by the schools directly. Because to whom the federal or the central grants is provided, to whom it is provided? It is provided by the central or the federal state to the state government. It is rooted in such a way that in between the state plays an important role, right? And since the countries are so large, population wise also, state wise also, the education system is so huge, right? So this is the limitation. This is the biggest limitation of the central or the federal grants, that some of the institutions which work directly under the center, which work directly under the ministry, they receive good grants and they are in a position to use that. But those institutions which work under the state, because again I told you that as per the Constitution of India, education in many countries, in Africa also, education is a subject which is under the central, under the state, and under the concurrent list, right? And in that also we have different type of education system: the formal education system, the non-formal education system, the informal education system. So if we see, or if we go into the details of the central grants or the federal grants, we see that there is no limitation or there is no shortage of money. There is a lot of money. Finance is not an issue when it is central or the federal grants. But the thing is, but the problem is, the limitation is how to use that money, right? Because there are certain formalities which are many a times will not be fulfilled. Let me give you an example from India. Like in center, there is one type of government, and in different type of states, out of the many of the states, 28, 29, or 30 states which India has, right? So in the states there may be different government. So if there is the same government working or the ruling in center as well as in the state, then that is okay. But what if different or the opposite party is ruling the state, and one opposite party is ruling the state which is not in the central government? So in that case, there is some political intervention, there is some political, you may say that encroachment, which decides that how the finance may be used. So this is one of the biggest limitation of the central or the federal grant. Now come to the second one, that is the state grant. Now state grant is good. I will say the state grant is good, but in a state grant, the limitation is that state grant is good. Why it is good? It is good because the state grant is easy to consume. The state grant is easy to provide, right? Because you need to just look upon only one state of your nation, one state or one part of your country. Like if a country is divided into four regions, major regions, the north, east, west, and south, then if we can say that a country is divided into four parts, four states. So one state has to look only in one, has to focus only on one area. So area wise and sanctioning of budget, these are the things which are good for the state grants. But the problem is that when we talk about the state grants, then the funding or the total budget or the total GDP that is with that state, that is in the hands of the state, that is quite less than the central or the federal grants. So you can see that these are the type of grants: federal or the central grant, then there is a state grant. Both has some limitations, both has some advantages. So now what I want to say here is that in any work or in any area of our life, we see that there are certain advantages or there are certain limitations, but it is actually the intention of the government, it is the intention of the officials who are working there, who decide that in what sector we have to use. Like if you have a good amount of money, so for example, if you have a budget of 100 rupees under state grant, now you have to decide that where you are going to fix that amount out of 100. For every year you are planning for 3 years or you are planning for 5 years. What is the planning? And in that planning, are you going always for the constructions? Are you always going for repairing? Are you going for the construction of libraries? Are you going to purchasing of equipments? So what, or you are going for upgradation? You are going for what you are going for what you have planned, right? This is important because out of the grant which is provided under the central grant or state grant or even the local bodies, a major portion goes for the salary of the people who are working there, either the teaching staff or the non-teaching staff. Since I have been told in the introductory session only that many of you are working already in some of the best institutions, either at the school level or at the college or the university level, so you understand that salary consumes a good amount of the grant which is being provided either by the state government or by the central government. Now, the third one, that is the local bodies. It is quite easy to understand the structure of the local bodies, right? Uh, like in United States of America also, in India also, in some of the major other countries also, even in the African continent also, we see even in Nigeria also. So the participants who are from Nigeria and other African country, they will discuss it later with us, that local bodies always play a very important role. Now, what are those local bodies? We need to understand. The question is, what is the structure of those local bodies? How they will decide that, yes, this is the education or this is the type of education that we have to decide. So local bodies play a very important role, right? The head of the local body play a very important role. If it is a city, if it is if it is a metropolitan city, if it is a big city, big in terms of population and area also. Sometimes the area is less, but the city is big, right? So metropolitan city, or it is a general city, city of A class, city of B grade, city of C grade, or if it is a village, if it is a remote village, if it is a very small village, right? So the local bodies, the municipalities, the corporations, or the nigams. So these are the structures that we have here. So dear participants, by now we have discussed here that what we have discussed here. Let me just go for a quick revision, and then I will take certain questions from your side. With these objectives, please focus on your screen. With these objectives, we have discussed the first type of objective, the first objective, that to understand the role of the state. When I say the role of the state, it simply means the central state, the state as a state, and then the local bodies in providing funds for the school. Then we discussed about the state as funding agency. These type of fundings we have discussed. So now I'd like to stop here for one moment, for just a few seconds, say 30 seconds, and we'll take questions from your side or your observations. Yeah, please, any one of you, please unmute yourself and just raise questions. Any one of you, please. Or if there is certain example in your mind, you may also discuss that. We will try to elaborate that also. Yeah, anyone? Am I visible? Am I audible? Yeah, any one of
Yes,
you?
sir.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. This is Manoj from Indian
Yes,
Public
yes,
School.
yes.
Just I want to know that you have just as a private school, we are working in a private organization. Many of the teachers, like the participants over here, are from
Okay.
private institution. Then what is the how can we manage funded from like source from government, like central government or state government? What are the
Okay.
sources and where we get this? My question is this.
Okay, so this is a great question, right? Since you have told that you are working in an institution which is also private mode, and by now we have discussed about the central federal grants, the state grants, and the local bodies. So this is what we are actually talking about. Like in a country like India, right? Or in other countries also, there is also a fourth, you can say, or there is another mode of, you can say that schools which are working under private mode. Now the good thing about is that many a times the private institutions, they require money, they require funds, but there are no such provisions as are provided by states or as by provided by central government or as provided by the local bodies, sorry, that they may get fund. So the question is that, is this funding applicable only to the government agencies or to the government institutions? Now my answer is that there are two things, there are two cases. Number one is that there is no provision of funding at any level by central, by state, or by the local bodies.
For
Another
the
key
private institution.
another aspect is that sometimes some of the states, like in the state of Gujarat in India, and in some foreign countries also, like in the United States of America, like in Singapore, what the state does is that they may provide you funding in terms of the land. They may provide you funding as a one time funding, right? When you open an institution, or if you have opened an institution and you are running it for 10 years, say, and your environment is good, you are providing quality education, your contribution in the educational index of that particular country or that particular state is good, then they decide it on certain parameters that what type of assistance may be provided to them. So for this particular question that one of the participants, Mr. Manoj, has asked me, or we are discussing this question, I have two answers. One is there is absolutely no assistance. There is no financial assistance from the state. But at the same time, the better answer or the better approach is that the state must look into the all the type of the agencies which are engaged in providing education. Not necessarily that you are providing it every year, not necessarily
Okay.
that you are providing it all points of time, but if some institution, education institution is providing good quality education, if it is talking about total quality management, right? If it is giving results, good results, if the number of pass outs, the learners who are involved there, they are performing good in the society as a whole, then they must be then they are provided, they are being provided financial assistance as well as other type of assistance from the state. So in this there is a little contradiction, but yes, there are certain provisions also. I hope I am clear.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so dear participants, let us move a little bit ahead. And as I showed you this particular slide earlier also, we are now in a position to talk about sorry, the grants which are provided to the schools. So we have different type of grants. Let us discuss it one by one. For your convenience, I have also tried to design this picture here, particularly the first one, the grants in cash, right? I told you, first is grant in cash, which is mentioned here in red color, and second one is the grants in kind, which is highlighted here in the black color. So let us go with the first one in this pictorial form, in this graphical form, which is grants in cash. So the first one is the proportionate grants. It is clear from the name only that it will be in the proportion. What will be the formula for the proportion? Because proportion is a mathematical term. The proportion, it may be 50-50, it may be 70-30, it may be 80-20, right? Second is the capital grant or the gradation system. Then capitation grants. These are some of the terms which are used in commerce, which are used in commerce sector, or you can say in the business sector, or you can say in the financial sector. That is why in the very beginning I told you that when we are talking about the title of this unit, the sources of a school fund, Actually, in general, we are talking about the economics of education. So that's why in the very beginning I discussed that why we need to understand the economics of education. We need to understand the economics of education because education as such in general is a very important concept. And when economics of education is being studied or when economy word is associated with education, then it becomes most important. Just as the security of a nation is important, similarly, the economics of education is also very important for a nation, for a state, for the local bodies also. Now you will say that why is it important? Why is it as such important, as much important as the security of a nation? It is important because it decides, the economics of education decides the quality of education, the quality of living style, right? The what will be the performance of that particular state? How many people want to reside in that country? What is their actual contribution? These things are decided only when the economics of education is in a healthy state. If economics of education is poor, if in a country education is not in a good health, the quality of education is just for the sake of name, that yes, the schools are there, institutions are there, colleges and universities are there, but no quality is being provided, then what will happen? People will live there, but at some point of time they will have this idea in mind that the state, that the country, that the government has not taken care of them, right? Because health can be taken care of by eating right food or by taking a balanced diet, or sometimes if it is unbalanced also, then it affects your health not too badly. But if education is not good, what will happen? Because education, who are the takers of education, who are the customers of education, or who are being provided schools? You and me are now not taking any such type of formal education. The kids, the citizens of the country who are in the growing stage, say is age 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, maximum 25 years, they are taking the education. They are taking directly the formal education and sometimes formal and informal both. So we need to understand that the economics of education play a very important role. Now, again, that was a thematic perception or thematic representation of the concept, the sources of school funds. Right now, come back to the particular theme, that is grants in cash. So these are the types of 7 or 8 types of grants in cash has been defined here. And to understand it with examples, let us come back quickly to the unit. Here we will try to understand that what are the grants provided to the schools and in what way. Now, dear learner participants, you will be surprised to know that the concept of grant in aid in schools or in colleges and in universities, right? In any educational institution, it is not a new concept. It is a very old concept. And even if I will say that 200 or 300 years ago, or 2 or 3 centuries ago, and even more than that, more ago than that, if you go into the history of education, I'm talking about economics of education. Now I'm taking the history of education. If you will talk about the history of education, you will find that when there used to be the kings, when there used to be the emperors, they also used to provide grants to the educational setups, grants to the Gurukul systems in India and other countries also. There used to be the emperors or the kings or some type of rulers. They used to provide some financial assistance to the schools, to the educational institutions. Why? Because a country is powerful, a country can be said as developed, or to be it will be said good, right? In which terms? In the terms of the quality of education. Now we are living in the 21st century, in the year 2025, right? Here the terms have been changed, and those terms have been taken in the form of the grants. So what is the meaning of grant actually? Grant is actually the financial assistance, and for that we have many types. And here, particularly in your self-learning material, it has been defined in 2 ways. The 2 types have been discussed here. The first is a grant in cash. Now, this is a particular classification which is given by two educationists, Bhatnagar and Agrawal, in the year 1997. Right? This is one classification. This is not the classification which always works. Right? This I'm just going to make this very clear. This is one of the classification which is easy to understand. That is why it has been mentioned in your self-learning material. So what these two people studied in the years previous to 1997, they came out with the results that first is the proportionate grant. As I told you, what is the proportionate grants? Say 50% of the grant will be provided by the government, and the rest of the 50% that the institution has to arrange by its own. Now you will ask me the question that why government is willing to give 50% of the amount, 50% of the expenditure? Because of the reason that government actually decides that in which direction education is going. So it is the moral responsibility. It is not like that government is giving some donation, right? So I request you all to please focus on this particular discussion, that donation and grant both are different terms, and many a times I have seen educationists using these two words simultaneously and synonymously, that yes, both the terms are same. No, both the terms are totally different. Donation is totally different, and grant is totally different. So government has to pay, has to arrange, has to approve, and has to provide. It must provide the sum of the proportion. Sometimes it is 100 and 0 also, that all the education, all the expenditure will be bear up by the government only. There are many countries in the world which bear up the whole expenditure. Students, they do not have to pay any type of fees, starting from the primary school, then secondary school, then if they are going some engineering or some medical course, or they are going for some university education, they are doing research, PhD or something like that, all education is totally free. But in most of the countries in the world, those countries are only a few one where it is totally free, that 100 and 0 is the proportion. But in most of the countries, the proportion is like 90 and 10. Sometimes it is 80 and 20. So 80% is bear up by the government, and 20 is to be generated by its own resources. Sometimes it is 75 and 25, and sometimes it is 50 and 50. And interestingly, I am giving you one very good example, that I have come across many institutions where in the first year, government provides 90% of the expenditure, and 10% is being generated by the own resources. In the second year, it is 80-20. In the third year, it is 70-30. In the fourth year, it is 60-40. And for the rest of the years, it is 50-50. Now the question is that why there is such type of policy, why this is being designed by the government, that proportionate grants will be there. Proportionate grant is designed by the government. Proportionate grant is being utilized by the government as a policy because the government uh, just thinks over the fact that to provide the same budget to the another sectors also. Like I said that to provide some of the amount to the energy sector, because energy is a growing and booming sector. To provide some, you can say that grant or provide more budget to the defense sector, right? So they cut the expenditure of the educational institution or the budget which is being provided to the schools. So this is the example of the proportionate grants. The second is the gradation system. What is the gradation system? Gradation system is working, or it is in fashion, it is in wake for since last many years, for many years, and it is nothing but simply the grade. Like we get the grades A, B, C, or D, or E sometimes, right? The same applies here. That if it is a good grade, then more assistance will be given. If the grading is low, then less assistance will be provided. So this is the gradation system. Then deficit grant. What is deficit grant? The difference between income and expenditure. What is the income? What is the expenditure? What are the sources of income? Fees, providing some facilities. And what are the expenditures? Expenditure in purchasing of furnitures, expenditure in purchasing of new equipments, expenditure in providing some facilities to the learners, right? So this is the deficit grant, the difference between income and expenditure of the schools. Then multiple systems. Is it based on two or more of the above systems? Like you are applying the gradation system at one point of time. Along with that, you are going for the deficit grant also. So in multiple system, you use or you go for more than one type of the system. So these are the four type of systems that we have discussed so far. So let me just make a quick review of this. The first is the proportionate, based on proportion. Gradation is based on the grades. Deficit grant is based on the difference between income and expenditure. And the multiple system, that is the fourth one, is based on selection of more than one system that we have discussed so far. So it is quite easy to understand. Now let us come across another four systems or the four type of grants. It is the capital grant, capitation grant, fixed grant system, and negotiable ad hoc grant. What are the capital grants? The grants which are given to meet the expenses that are to be incurred for a particular specific purpose, not for the general purpose. For example, if a school is going to provide a 1 week orientation program or 1 week training program to the learners that how to study mathematics, then this will come under the capital grant. Similarly, if you have designed a plan, if you have designed a module, or if you are planning to take your students to some exhibition, to some mathematical program, to some another organization, to some conference at national and international level, like throughout the world, there are some countries where it is said that education system is quite good. So if your school is planning a 1 week program of some selected students based on the merit or based on the performance, the year performance or the last 5 year performance, to that you are planning to take those students or the toppers of your school, the good scholars of your school, to a particular institution to see that how the learners and how the teachers teach and how the learners learn, it will come under the capital grant. That is for a particular purpose. Now, capitation grant, this is very simple, and mathematically it is based on the number of students. See where the cursor is moving, the number of students who are enrolled in the school. So for large schools, the capitation is good. For schools with less number of enrollment, the capitation is small. Then fixed grant system, it is absolutely very easy to understand the fixed grant system, because a fixed amount is being provided by the government to the school. There is fixed grant. If you have 1000 students in your institution, it will be a particular amount. If that number is raised to 5000 in next 2 or 3 years, even then the grant will be the same. That is the fixed one. And the last is the negotiable ad hoc grant. When it is negotiable and it is ad hoc, it means it is not permanent, it is not fixed, it is based on certain situations. So this is the example of negotiable ad hoc grant. So these are the 8 types of grant system which come under the category of grants in cash. When we say grants in cash, it simply means that the government is providing the amount or the budget into the account or into the formalities, just completing the formalities, and this amount will be provided to the school. And another type of grant here is the grants in kind. Grants in kind, which are in the form of the material aid. And this grant is, I will say that this is also very important. Why it is important? Because it is in the form of material aid. Suppose if I am going to visit a particular scale A, particular school A, and if I find that the learners are quite good, the teachers are also making the lot of efforts, but the school is lacking some technological gadgets. If I want them to give some computers, if it is observed that school is good, but the laboratory or the lab or the library is missing a few things, then that may be provided. So such type of grants are also being provided. And the grants in kind are generally some organizations, some NGOs, some you can say business families, they believe in making such type of the grants, right? So we have 2 types of grants: grants in cash and grants in kind. And before we end this particular unit, we have another most important title which is left here, that is endowments and land grants. However, I would like to take some of the questions if there are some from the participants, and let me just ask you to unmute yourself and raise any question if you have over the issues that we have discussed so far. Right? Yeah. Any one of you, please. Any observation or any point that you want me to discuss again, particularly related to the grants in cash or grants in kind, or the role of the state in funding. Yeah. Any one of you, please. Am I audible?
Yes, sir,
Yes.
you are audible.
Yeah, any one of you? If I have to move ahead, then that is also okay. That is not an issue. We can just take the questions in the last at the last moment also. Should I move ahead?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so dear learned participants, by far we have discussed that what actually is the commerce of education, what actually is the finance of education, why is it important, why money, or why I must say that finance play a very important role in providing good quality education, how grants may be decided, how grants may be provided, what type of grants are required by a school. It is not like just one mathematical formula that we need this much of amount and we will make our school too good. No, it comes under the uh, particular concept of economics of education, where we have to decide that how much financial assistance is required and in which way, in which form it is required. Sometimes simply providing money in cash or providing money is not the solution. So we need to understand that what is our requirement. That is why we need to understand the economics of education, and particularly the concept of providing funds, how to generate funds, how to collect the funds, how to utilize them, and how to decide, particularly for next coming years, say for 10 years or 20 years, 25 years, that in which direction the quality of education is moving upon. Now come to the last topic of this particular unit, which is termed as endowments and land grants. The endowments and land grants. What are endowments and land grants? Endowment is again a term which is taken from the commerce of education or the economy of education. Endowments are nothing but simply the aid, the help, the assistance. Why help is being provided? Help and assistance or aid is provided for many reasons, out of which, when we talk about educational institutions, endowments are given so that the performance of the institution, the performance of those who are involved in these institutions may be raised, right? Good performance may be seen. Let me take an example from the sports. If a player is good but he or she is lacking the basic facilities, any type of a sports, maybe football, maybe cricket, maybe volleyball, maybe swimming, anything, right? So if you see that a player is there and he or she has the capability of winning a medal in some national or international event, say Olympic or something like that, right? So what you will do, you will definitely try to provide some endowment or aid of assistance or scholarship to that particular player so that his or her performance may be raised. The same thing applies to the institutions also. So many a times we see that in our society there are certain philanthropic organizations, there are some trust, even some individuals, they contribute, they provide endowments to the school, out of which scholarship is one of the commonest form of providing endowment. And second important thing is the grant of land. Though land, or we can say that is the land or the this infrastructure, land infrastructure, it comes under the government. But sometimes what happens, that if someone is having a good land, a good amount of land, right, good number of land, then one may provide this to a institution, so that you just open an institution and increase the enrollment of the learners and serve the society. So this is another type of grant which is seen in India, and this is other countries also. So endowments and land grants, it always works, and this is considered as one of the best way of providing financial assistance to the educational institutions. And here the last one is the fees and their types. You all know that is a fee, some charges, some fees is being levied upon the learners, and monthly or tri-monthly or half yearly and sometimes annually fees is taken. What is the concept of fee? Why fee is taken, why fee must be charged? There is some moral question also, that whether fee should be charged or fee should not be charged. So these are the questions which depend upon the society in which we are living. In some of the countries, in some of the education systems, no fee is charged, all type of fee is levied upon, it is relaxed, right? it is provided free. But there are many countries in many of the education system, including India, and I hope in Africa also, in Nigeria also, fee is being asked for. Why? Because not for making profits, but for running the schools, to sustain the school, to just for the sake of charging the facilities which are being provided at the school, the low fees may be claimed. Sometimes the fees is high in some of the institutions, particularly we may say that in some of the reputed private institutions in all the parts of the world, right, which are being run by some particular families or business organizations, a high level of fees is charged. So maybe they are charging more fee for making it as a profitable business. But when we talk about the education of the common people, education of all the citizens living in a particular country, right? No matter which country in the world, in which continent, uh, fees is a concept which is to be looked upon with very, you know that with a very sophisticated and with some loose hands. I mean to say that only that much of fee may be charged over the people who are learning in the schools, that may be given easily. And along with the fee is another concept of scholarship. So those who are not in a position to pay fee, they must be given a scholarship or some freedom to not to pay that particular fee, right? And it generally happens here. Now, the last one is the sale proceeds and other miscellaneous sources of the fund. Sale proceeds, you know, that sometimes the schools, they directly sell materials. I have highlighted this: the uniforms, the notebooks, the stationaries, even the edibles also, right? So there are some canteens in the schools. So it depends upon the school to school that what type of things are being provided here. In some of the schools, it is totally free, whereas in some of the schools, it is this one, so that the nominal or the some of the charge, some of the you can say the expenditures may be met upon. So these are the sale proceeds. In also libraries also, like second example is of the school library, right? Old newspapers and magazines, or the old books which are more than of 10 years of age, uh, more than 10 years, right? They may be sold out, and the expenditures may be met out. So in general, what we see here is that when we talk about the sources of school funds, we have a lot of things that we can study it. If you are a principal of some institution, if you are a manager, or if you are simply a teacher, or if you are a learner, we all categories of people who are associated with providing education, they must know that what actually the school funds are all about. What is the meaning of sale deeds? What is the meaning of donation? See, this term has come here again. So there is difference between donation, there is a difference between grants. And what are the types of the grants that we have already discussed here, right? And sometimes the collection, sometimes money, sometimes finance is also you can say collected for some specific purposes from parents in different forms, like you have to organize some annual function, you have to go for some publication of school magazine, you have to go for some other things, right? So sometimes this policy is also being adopted by the schools. Then rent and subscription is also there, right? Then there are some co-curricular activities also which are organized for raising the funds. So I mean to say that when you are working in a school or in an institution, to run an educational institution, we need not only to understand the basic concepts of curriculum or the basic concepts of how teaching must be, how good teaching must be carried upon, but we also need to understand that how funding, how economics of education play a very important role, which is being discussed in this particular unit, that is unit number 5, which we have discussed here in this form, right? So this all we have discussed here in the form of PowerPoint and also that. And this is the, I can say that a lot of things we have discussed here in under the topic sources of school funds. So if there are some questions, then you may raise it. Otherwise, we can go for the another part of the presentation. That is, let me put it on the screen. That is mobilization of financial resources. Yeah, please unmute yourself and take your time to raise some questions. Otherwise, we will move to unit number 6, that is mobilization of financial resources. Yeah, any one of the participants. Out of 30, I think 28 are the participants. Any questions? Please. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, would you like to ask some question, or would you like to go into some details or some discussion of any topic? Because this unit was too lengthy. The other one is a little bit short.
Sir, almost all the doubts are clear, and you can move forward, sir. That is too nice to listen you.
Okay.
Huh, yes, this is true.
Okay, fine. So, okay, so at the end of this unit, what I would like to suggest to you all is that go with the self-learning material, and along with that, you can refer to certain encyclopedias or certain other resources also, which are being provided by the one of the best universities in the world, that is the Indira Gandhi National Open University, right? So that you may get a broader perspective. And the assignment that you have to do here is that you just go for enlist, or just go for listing the various type of grants, list the various type of grants which are being provided to your institution. Or if you have worked in more than one institution, then it will be really easy for you to enlist that. What I will do, I will just type it in the chat box a little later after the completion of second unit, right? That what assignment you have to do here. Okay, so as you all have said that we can move to the second presentation. So this is about the mobilization of financial resources. So, okay, we will start with this one. Dear learned participants, in the last unit, we discussed about the sources of school funds. We talk about the funds. What is the meaning of funds? And I told you that funds are nothing but simply the financial resources or management of the financial resources. And under that management of financial resources, there is a small topic, there is a small title, that is the mobilization of financial resources. So we need to understand here that what are the resources.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
Yes, sir, please.
Sir, Mr. Yusufu wants to say something. Mr. Yusuf.
Right. Let me go to the screen here. Yes, one has raised hand. Yusufu Kasakia. Yeah, please. Please unmute yourself. Mr. Yusufu, please unmute yourself. You have raised hand. Mr. Yusufu, you have raised hand. Please ask your question. Please unmute yourself. Or if there is some network issue from your side, you may just type it in the chat box also.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. You can go ahead with your lecture.
Yeah, I think that
Yes.
he has pressed the button of raising hand. No issues. If there will be some question, we will stop in between and take the question. So, Mr. Yusufu, we will be waiting for you, right? Let us start in between the mobilization of financial resources. So, dear learned participants, as I told you that to understand the economics of education or to understand the financial resources in education, particularly under the this PG diploma in SLM, right? It is very important to understand that how mobilization of financial resources work. Why is it important? Because with financing of education, with financing of educational resources, one thing is very important that you must note down, that unless and until there is mobilization of finance in any sector, not only in education, in any sector, if it is static, if it is non-mobilizing, then there is a problem. And if it is smooth mobilization of financial resources, then we can say that yes, education is moving in the right direction. How? We will try to prove it in this lecture or after this discussion. So let us go for the objectives of the unit. There are four objectives. And the first one is to understand the concept of mobilization. What is mobilization? Mobility, moving from one position to the another position, to not to remain static, not to be fixed in one at one point only, at one position only. For example, let us take the role of UNESCO. UNESCO is the largest educational body. I'm taking a very general example so that all the participants, either from India or Nigeria or another part of Africa, may understand. So, if UNESCO or UNICEF, particularly UNESCO, which was established a long ago, which was established a decade ago, if it works only on a one particular phenomena and remains static, non-mobilizing, then what will happen? It will not be able to achieve those targets because we are living in an era of 21st century. So in the year 2025, we have different objectives. In the year 2030, we will be living in a different era. In the year 2050, the situation will be totally different. So this mobilization is very important. Mobilize with what? Mobilize with relative to the time. Mobilization with reference to the need, with reference to the requirement, with reference to the available resources. So we need to understand the concept of mobilization. Second objective is to perceive the need. As I was talking about, the mobilization of financial resources in the schools. Because again, I would like to highlight that schools play a very important role in understanding the mobilization of financial resources. Because if we have good learners, we have good teachers, schools play a role of the backbone of the universities and higher educational institutions. So to understand the mobilization of financial resources is very important, particularly with relative to the schools. Third is to develop the strategies and design the plans for mobilization of financial resources. Why the third objective is important? Because we cannot say that if we have a budget of say 1,000 crores, 1,000 USD, United States dollars, or some other currency, it is not like that we have to spend the money in any direction without developing any strategies. No, we need to look upon that what are the requirements, what are the needs of the teachers, what are the requirements of the learners, what is the need of the laboratories, what will be the structure of the libraries or some other facilities which are being provided in the schools, what will be the requirement after 10 years, what is the requirement of society, what are the requirement of the nation. So we need to look upon these things with a very broad perspective, not with a narrower perspective. And the last objective is to appreciate the need to adopt only ethical means for mobilizing resources, because with finance is associated a one danger, I will say, or with a red signal, that is to utilize non-ethical means. Because education, I have already told in the previous session that education or providing education in the schools or in any institutions, in education institutions, it's not a profit making business, it's a social welfare scheme. It is all for the social welfare, it is for the welfare and development of the country and the citizens of that particular country. So these are the four objectives which we have to discuss here, with the last one emphasizing upon the ethical means of mobilizing resources. Now let us come to the first objective, mobilization of financial resources. To understand the meaning of mobilization, you all know the meaning of mobile, the mobile phone that we are using. We can use it at any place, at any time, as per our convenience. That is the meaning of the financial resources. Also, to use those financial resources, to use that budget, either it is provided by the central government or the federal government, either it is provided by the state government or by some local bodies, or by some business house, some philanthropist, or by any means, you have some financial resource, you need to mobilize it. It refers to two things. One is mobilize it in such a way, use it in such a way that it is based on certain planning, certain strategy. This is one thing. Another important thing is that you always need to design a list of priority. That yes, this is the core area, this is the area A, or this is the area 1 where we have to definitely use the financial resource. This is the area B, or the second one, where less financial resources are required. Similarly, if you have a list of 1 to 10, then 10th point may be that area where you need not to apply any type of financial resources, but rather you may go for some other type of resources. So you need to decide this hierarchy, that where and in which condition, or up to what extent the financial resource has to be mobilized. This is very important. Mobilization of financial resources. What type of resources? I have already discussed in the previous session. It may be grants, it may be some financial assistance from some other sources, it may be some donation, it may be land endowments, or anything may be may play any valid resource of uh, finance, may be called as a financial resource if it is valid in the sense that you must have a good balance sheet or the balanced balance sheet, right? financial resources. Then what are the various resources? This I have already discussed. Now the need of mobilization of financial resources. Let's discuss the key reasons. And I have just put some dots, and let me again refer to the content or the material that has been provided by Igno to you. So let me just increase the size. Yeah. So this is the mobilization of financial resources. What we discussed here in mobilization of financial resources, I have already discussed the objectives and the introduction. Now let me just go to the need of mobilization of financial resources. By the time I am giving you examples, please refer to this content material. Dear learned participants, we all know that growth and development, these are two separate terms, though here I will just take them as synonyms of each other. The growth and development of a nation, of a society, or we can say, if we restrict ourselves to the education system, because this is the class or this is the session which is primarily focused on talking about the financial resources of education, we need to understand that growth and development, they come hand in hand only when they are planned, only when they are based on some good quality and a strong financial resource management. Finance play a very important role. Without finance, without budget in your hand, without good quality, and without freedom to use that financial resource, if you're not permitted to use that financial resource, you will find yourself restricted, right? So when we talk about mobilization of financial resources, it simply means that we need to understand that in this era where we are living, this is not the time when we say that yes, we need a good quality education system, we need good schools, we need good learners, we have good learners, we can just go for good quality education without providing good facilities to either to the teachers or to the learners. We cannot say. We need trained teachers, we need trained manpower, we need good learners also. If the learners are not good, when I say they are not good, I simply mean to say that if the number of learners who are enrolled in your institution, they are not good performers because of any reason, maybe their background, maybe individual differences, maybe a lot of things which come under educational psychology. But we need to understand that through training, by providing them good quality education, by providing them exposures, by providing them certain type of facilities, by providing them certain things which are available in the market of education, we can make them good learners. Similarly, if we talk about the quality of teachers, you cannot say that merely the presence of a teacher in a classroom does anything. No, this is a wrong concept, or this is a very old concept. And even I will say, rather than old, it is not a good concept. It is not a right concept. This is a wrong concept. Along with the presence of the teacher, we need to understand that some financial resources must be availed upon that particular teacher so that he or she may be trained, may be kept in pace with the present system of knowledge. Like we are living in the year 2025, we are talking about digital technology. We are talking about the use of MOOCs. We are talking about the use of satellites. We are talking about the use of first hand experiences, artificial intelligence, and certain other things. So, this is not covered into your syllabus, but when we are talking about the broader perspective, we need to understand. So, when we are talking about digital technology in education, we are talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about big data in education, we are talking about A1 type of institutions. So we need to understand that for all this, we are dependent upon the facilities or the assistance which is available in the market, which is available already available in the market. So as a education institution, it is the responsibility of the state as well as those other stakeholders also, that we need to provide those facilities to the learners, to the teachers also. But what if we are not mobilizing the financial resources? What will happen? We will restrict ourselves to the older and the invalid means of teaching, where a teacher comes to the class and uses or spends 40 minutes or 45 minutes, whatsoever is the timing of the period, and writing on the blackboard and merely just talking about a few things which are mentioned in the curriculum. No, this is not the best means. It may be a mean of it may be the means of teaching. It may be one of the method of teaching, but certainly this is not the best way of teaching. So we need to understand that financial resources must be made available to the learners. So that is why we say that financial management is very important. So what we have discussed here, let me go back to the your content, learning material, and the first one, mobilization of financial resources. Objectives very important. We are talking about first and second objectives here. The first objective was to understand the mobilization of resources. The second one was the need of financial resources. So I have discussed both of them by taking one example only, that good education means good financial resources. So first go for the good financial resources. First go for the resources, the good financial resources. You need to know, as a head of the institution, you need to know, as a principal of your institution, you need to know, as an authority of your institution, that I need to train my teachers. If you are training your teachers with the best quality available in the market, or with the best quality which is available, when I say market, it doesn't mean that you have to purchase it always. It means that you have to train your teachers through, like IGNO is providing you the facility. The Indira Gandhi National Open University in India is providing a number of facilities in the form of MOOCs. There are a number of things which you can get into, and even without paying any type of fees, also these facilities are available many a times. Some are paid and some are unpaid also. So you need to train your teachers. You need to take help of such good universities, the best universities in the world and in the country like India, right? So you need to understand that yes, in this way we have to use the financial resources. First fix them. These are the financial resources. Then just try to look into the broader perspective of this requirement, this topic 6.4, need of mobilization. Because if you're not focusing on the need, then you will not understand the meaning of the requirement of this one. So need and requirement both walk hand in hand. Now this up to this we have discussed. Now these are the ways and means for mobilization of financial resources. What are the ways in which manner we may go for the mobilization of financial resources? So here I would like to say that just go in your society, at any place you are living, just look upon the, you can say that some industry which is making profits. Like there are certain brands of clothings, there are certain brands of food chains, there are certain brands of cars, or you can say vehicles, right? You just see all around. So some of them, they always stand in a position where they attract the customers, where they always means everyone wants to avail those facilities. Leave aside the reason that whether that much of financial resource is available with that person or not. I'm talking about the impact of that particular industry, impact of that brand. So to make education as a brand, to make your institution as a brand, to make yourself as a brand, you need to understand that financial resources play a very important role. Because many times, based on the research across the world, it has been seen that funds are not always the reason for less quality, for low quality. It is only the management of financial resources which is important, right? So as a principal, or as a school head, you need to understand that there are different ways and means through which mobilization of financial resources may be done. Now what are those resources, or what are those ways by which it may be done? We can see it here: financial resources from public funds. So in a country like us, or in many countries of the world, in almost all the countries, tax is being paid upon. Tax is being paid upon by the working class or by the businessman to the country, to the finance sector, like, and that tax is being utilized by the government to provide funds to the schools. So what fund is required? Sometimes it is asked and sometimes it is not asked. So if you are a careful administrator, what you will do, you will try to look upon not only to the government, not only to the central federal government, to the state government, or the local bodies for the fund, what you will do, you will go for public funding also, because in a sector like education, people want to donate also. Education, probably education and religion. So leave aside religion. Education is the only sector across the world, across the universe, where people want to donate. Otherwise, in other things, people invest. This is important. People invest. Everyone want to invest in different sector, but education and religion, and leave aside religion, I'm talking only about education. Education is the only sector across the world where people want to donate, right? So this is an important point. So, with endowments, with the sale deeds that we have discussed in the previous session, you can go for donations also. So, it depends upon your institution and your working strategy that what you have decided. And across the world, we have taken example of the agencies at the world level like UNICEF and UNESCO also, where we see that they play a very important role in providing the funds. So these are the key reasons that we have discussed here. Now, this is the point. These are the points where we can come across the ways and means for mobilization of financial resources. Public funds, donation and endowments, then fees and other contribution. This again we have discussed in the previous session. Then sale of stationaries, books, uniforms. So you might have seen that in most of the institutions they go for their own publications in the form of school magazines or bus services. These are the commonest thing that you have come across, and they charge fees for that. What is the reason that they go for this one? This is actually the management of the financial resources. That what is the generation of capital? Generation of capital. Again, education, providing of education in the schools or in universities, it is not a profit making business, but ultimately what you need to do, you need to generate the funds. You must go for the with a capital approach, that without money, without finance, you will not be in a position to provide quality education, because ultimately there is a, you can say, comparison and commitment, as well as competition in the market of providing education. Education itself has become a market. We cannot say that in the year 2025 we are living in a period of time where education is only for the service. That's a good idea. Education is for service. Education is the responsibility of the state. Education is a responsibility of the people who are providing it. But we cannot say that education is far away from capital, and education is far away from competition or commitment. No, it is an industry. Education is also an industry which has certain expectations, and when there are certain expectations, then there are certain demands. When there are certain demands, then there are certain types of you can say supplies also. So the one who will be a good supplier will sustain. The one who is not a good supplier will get demolished. This is very clear. This is not the principle. This is not the key formula of education. This is the formula of economics. And I told you in the very beginning, in the midway, and in the finally, while concluding this session, that education is, though non-profiting business or non-profiting commitment, but economics of education is totally a profit-making work, profit-making business. So you need to understand and differentiate these two also, right? So these are the ways and means for mobilization of financial resources, and this is only one list. There are certain other things also, like though this is not mentioned in your SLM, but one thing that comes to my mind is that the patent and the publication. If your institution, if your educational institution, your school, if you are in a position to make certain patents or certain publications with certain copyright charges and something like that, you can go for generation of certain other financial resources which are mentioned here. Other than that, you can go for that also. Now let us come to the last we can say section of this particular unit, which talks about the ethics. So first we need to understand the concept of ethics. What is ethics? Ethics is nothing but simply a philosophical term which talks about what is good, what is bad, or let me say that what is right or what is wrong. So when we talk about the ethics of financial resources, it is always taken in a negative manner. because with finance there may be no ethics. But it is not so, because here we are talking about not only the finance or profit making, we are talking about the ethics of mobilization of financial resources in education. So here ethics really works. So what type of ethics, what type of values we need to do, we need to take care of? We need to take care of the ethics, that what is right, what is wrong, up to what extent we have to that value the the labor, the honesty, and transparency in the financial matters. It cannot be said that if someone has donated a very handsome amount, a very good amount to an institution, and and you as an institution are going to utilize that fund for some purpose which is not in match with the actual target, so that will really not work. So ethics play a very important role in deciding that in which direction you are moving. So ethics are also very important in another sense, because if being an education institution you are not following the ethics, so what will happen? Very soon you will lose, you will not be in a position to you can say that ascertain, assure the customers of the education that you are in that particular market. Because if in finance there are some ups and downs, one may go down and one may go up again in another business, but in education it is not like that. Either you are a good education provider or you are nowhere. So this is the difference between doing a particular commercial business and providing education, right? So I think that in this brief discussion we have discussed about the second unit, the another unit, the mobilization of financial resources. Though we have certain other examples also, but due to the constraints of time, right? I think that we have made here whatsoever discussion was possible. And as far as your assignment or that is concerned, I will just write in the chat box and you may just look upon it. Now, in the last 2 minutes, if you have some questions, then you may please unmute yourself. You may ask not only from unit this one, but also from the previous unit. Yeah, any one of you, please. Let me just go for stop sharing also. Yeah, please
Yes,
raise your
sir.
yes,
Good
please.
evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Sachin.
Yeah, myself Sachin Garg.
Yeah,
As we discussed about the funding,
okay.
but there are some similar terms in which we can differentiate professionally,
Yeah,
but either we can use them just as a synonym, undoubtedly. So, like we are having the fund, we are having the term aid, we are having the term donation. So, can
okay,
we differentiate them in terms of funding? If someone is donating, someone is funding,
okay,
and some grant is there, so can
okay.
we easily differentiate among
Yes,
these
yes.
terms?
Let me just try to answer it with an example. Like, let me take the easiest term, that is donation. Like, so donation is the choice of one person. It may be rupees Indian, or means one USD, or it may be 1 million USD. Donation is totally different. Donation is based on the choice of that particular person. It may vary, right? Sometimes to one institution, sometimes to another institution, sometimes to my alma mater. Donation is totally different concept. You donate something, you donate something out of no expectation, and the receiver receives it, right, again without any expectation. Donation is something totally different. You feel that you have to donate, you just donate. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, second is the aid. Aid, as I told you, it is assistance, it is help. So, for which purpose you are going to give an aid? Suppose you are chairing a school as a principal or some senior faculty or something like that. You have good facilities, you have good laboratories, you have good libraries, but suddenly you feel that out of these things, you need to give something new, like new pedagogical experience to the learners. So you come across a situation, you find that this much of aid is required, then you will go for what? You will go for in search of some aid, right? And that aid may be from government. If it is from the government, then it becomes grant. So there is very less difference between grant and aid. That is why this term is used in one way, like grant in aid. The whole terminology is grant in aid. We do not use both the terms separately. That is, grant is one thing, aid is different thing. We use it, but generally it is used as grant in aid. This is the most common term that is used in educational economics across the world. So basically, these are two terms. One is donation, another is grant in aid. With grant in aid, there are certain formalities that if you have received some amount, any amount as grant in aid, then you have to make a detailed uh, balance sheet, or you must say that a detailed explanation that yes, this much amount was received, this much amount was spent, this was excess, this was less, something like formalities are there with that. Whereas in donation, it is not like that. Like grant in aid, if some amount is given to you, you have to use it one financial year. This is one of the restriction. But in donation, it is not like that. If you had excess amount, if you have received a very good amount as donation, you may use it for next 10 years also, depending upon situation. But grant in aid has to be utilized in a particular period of time. So there are difference between both the terms. I must say that donation is flexible, but grant in aid is not that flexible. It is little bit rigid. Donation may be any amount, less, more, too much, too less. But grant in aid is fixed. It will be based on certain formula. There are certain other differences also, right? You can just mail it to the regional center Dehradun. I will just try to answer all the questions, right? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Nice explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other participant, please unmute yourself. You may just raise your questions.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Yes, yes, please. Good evening. Yeah.
Sir, I would like to raise a question. It's actually not a question, but it's something related to like regarding when we are considering mobilization of financial resources.
Okay.
Is it like even when we are cutting down on certain cost matters or cost
Okay.
factors, does it also contribute towards mobilization of financial resources?
Yeah, definitely. If you are going to boost it up, or you are going to cutting down the existing one, it is mobilization. Because I will not say that addition of extra amount or always raising the amount as a part of budget is all about mobilization financial resources. Sometimes, see, in 1990s or in the first decade of millennium, that is 2010, what was expected to spend in education is totally different from what we are going to spend in the next decade, right? Because requirements are different, aims are different, objectives are different. Earlier we used more about technology, but at this particular point of time in the next 10 years, technology is already very handy. Technology is in our hands. Now we are talking about artificial intelligence, and in next 10 years we will move ahead. So maybe we will not give that much of contribution or that much of extension to that particular section. So sometimes cutting down, what you are saying, the term cutting down or edging down one particular sector is also a means of mobilization financial resources. It is just like a balance, right? One side up, one side down, and sometimes this side up, this side down. So you have to create a balance. Balance in which terms? Balance in terms of the needs and aspirations of your learners, your teachers, your institution, the society where you are living, the country where you are living. What are the goals? A lot of factors are there, right? So this is all about adjustment and creating balance. I hope I'm a little bit clear.
Yes, sir. We were referring it to cost management
Yeah.
usually,
Yes.
so that
Cost
an
management.
economical aspects on financial grounds
Yeah.
also aiding us and helping us in projecting various funds, so that like cutting down like paper printing
Yeah.
and moving into a different alternatives like digital
Digital
funds or
availability
digital
of,
initiatives.
yeah, digital libraries, you can say, digital resources, you may say, right?
Yes, sir.
This online sessions and online exposures, this also comes in that way. So it is all about you said the word cost benefit analysis, that is we call as CBA, cost benefit analysis. Means you are providing quality education, but under the cost, even less than the cost which is usually expected. This is all about CBA, cost benefit analysis. Right. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Welcome. So, any other participant?
Sir, can
I
I
know that
ask
you
one
might.
question?
Yes, yes, madam. Please.
Can I ask,
Mr.
sir?
Ritu Jain.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
yes.
I have a question, and my question is, what happens sometimes we try to accommodate our expenditure or whatever we are in our annual fees. What we do, we try to increase the annual fees maybe in a year or two, because what plenty of expenditure is there, so we try to adjust it over there, try to increase the annual fees. So how much it is good or not, is it is good or not, I would just want to know that should we increase the annual fees, because somewhere or the other increase in the annual fees, it affects the admissions also, because
Yeah.
then we don't get that much number of admissions because of the increase in the annual fees. But because we don't have that much of funds, so we want more funds so that we can have more and more whatever the plannings or whatever the things are
Yeah.
scheduled in our school, so we increase the annual fees. So
Yeah.
how to manage all these funding and increase in the annual fees plus admissions?
Okay, so this is a real nice question, right? The practical situation.
Yeah.
So I will just answer it with two
Thank you, sir.
points, right? By just indicating towards some other issues. Suppose there is a brand, right? You are visiting a nearby mall, and there are good shops in that, and there is one brand. I'm not naming any brand. Say any brand of clothing or anything like that. So you purchase that, and frequently you purchase that on some occasions of festivals, on at the start of the new year, or on the day when you get the salary, right? So you purchase frequently, not only for you but also for your family members. It is costly, but you are going to purchase it, and that too frequently. What's the reason? Because there is a brand. So as far as hike in fees is considered, I will say that I'm in favor of that. Favor, when I say that I'm in favor of that, I mean to say that if it is quality education, if total quality management TQM is there, right? So it must be done, right? Because good quality education is not possible without financial resources. And as far as admission is concerned, the same rule applies here. If there is something good in the market, one is going to purchase it by increasing the limit of the expenditure. So why not education? You are going to buy a good clothing and expend more and more in that, doing more and more expenditure, right? That is clothing. So why not education? You are going to take, one is going to take good medicine, good medical facility, insurance, good insurance schemes. Why not education? So we, as a part of this country or any other country, especially the developing countries, we need to understand that hike in fees is one issue. That is only one issue. But if good quality education is being provided, that must be taken upon. Because if a person has received, or if a person has got good education, then the cost that is being what you are saying, that expenditure, right, after joining some good services, or after opening up some, the entrepreneurship, or nowadays there are doing startup jobs, something like that, you may go for that management or balancing of that expenditure in the 5 years only, and then rest of the years you can just go for the profit. So it is all about understanding of market and all that. So your question is quite good, and I'm in favor of that. If it
So
is
it
quality,
means we, sir, excuse me, it means we have to provide, means we are providing quality education,
yeah,
and we should not think about the fee. We can increase
both
the
the
fee,
things
right?
are there.
Because we are providing quality education.
Both the things are there. If there are certain parameters, the standards are there. Standards in which sense? Like in a country like India, you have CBSC or any state board. There will be certain expectations of your state, or as a whole, India as a whole. So if you are achieving that, if good quality, and who are the provider? You are the provider, and who are the customers? Who are the takers? The parents, the other stakeholders, the learners. So if
Yes,
it is good, if it is better, if it is excellent, so as the proportionate of the fee may be hiked, depending upon the policy of your particular institution. But it cannot be said that good quality education will be provided without generation of funds, without generation of, you can say, the financial resources. It is not possible. You go to the market, purchase good things, it costs little more, or it costs something, no? So why not to spend in education? So spend in education wisely, take education wisely, and exist in the make the country strong wisely, right? This is my suggestion. Yeah.
excellent answer, sir. And one thing I
Thank you,
must
thank you
share,
very much, sir.
that your explanation is wonderful, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. So, well, it was a part of the feedback that I have received. So, I think that I'm sure that there
So,
will be more
so
questions.
just one thing I want to ask. pertaining to Ritu ma'am's question only.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that we can have some fee hike. Is there any particular formula, like how much percentage after how many years, so that there is a clear balance maintained, and we can, in case if there is a question of accountability,
Yeah.
that could also be
Yeah,
addressed.
I just got your question. See, this is a question which not very easy to answer, because in this, I'm not talking about this country or about India or some participant from two African countries. No such model has been devised all across the universe that we can say that yes, it should be 1%, say 5%, 10% at the end of 1 year or 3 year. It totally depends upon the infra. Infra means the infrastructure, the quality of education that is being provided by your institution. Again, I am referring to the laws of the market, right? If some new brands jumps upon into the market, right, and it is fulfilling the aspirations, the needs, the requirements, and the expectations of the customers, what happens? People run towards that, right? And up to the time that exists, that quality exists, people go for that. So likewise, we have seen that certain new brands come and the older one, they get removed. Sometimes the older one, they emerge out with the new covers, right? So if you ask me that if there is a particular formula, I will say no. That formula is being studied all across the world, universities. I also, as a part of an expert in economy of education, go for that. But if you will ask me one formula, so no such formula exists. It only depends upon the demand and the supply nature of education. So if you are demanding, if your supplying is good, demand may be as per that. This is the formula.
Right.
This
So
is the formula.
there
So
should
Thank you.
be some time gap in between, that after every 2 years you can increase in, or maybe after.
Time may be it may be decided as per the enrollment of your institution. So if you have
Okay.
5,000
Right,
enrollment,
right, right.
2,000, one
Excuse
thousand,
me, sir.
yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Pertaining to, I think so, what Gitanjali has just mentioned,
Yeah,
and so also regarding the same, what Ritu has raised, there is a tendency whereby in the state of Gujarat, we are following a fee regulation committee, an
yeah,
FRC.
yeah,
Usually, the FRC gives the upper band limit to raise or hike the fees,
yeah.
and it takes into consideration the facilities, the infrastructure, the manpower, the staffing, and the quality of academics on the basis of results and the activities they are doing in the district.
Okay.
So pertaining to that, I think so there is an FRC that puts a capping on the higher limit you can charge, or increase the fees for the following 3 academic sessions.
Hmm.
In the state of Gujarat, presently we are following that, which
Yeah, absolutely.
allows
Yeah.
a percentage of almost like 3 to 7%,
Okay.
whereby the balance one stands at 5% on an average.
Okay.
So, sir, here we are following. I don't know about the other states.
Yeah,
Maybe they
that's what
would
I'm
be.
saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and I totally agree with this one, right? So, like in your state, there is some policy. So, as a whole, like, see, we are living in a vast country, right? So, if there is anonymously some formula, so it may be decided by some of the regulatory bodies. Like in for schools, it is either CBSC or the state boards or the ICSC board or some other type of platforms. It may be decided that what may be done. But certainly, if the same formula applies to the different types of schools and different regulatory bodies, that is a matter which is of concern. So I feel that it is little, I will not say impossible, but little bit difficult to adopt the same formula for all the things. But certainly, this mechanism that you are adopting in your state, that is okay, that is wonderful, right? Because without hike in fees or without arranging good financial resources, if you are expecting good good quality education, absolutely not possible, right? You have to sustain. You have to sustain in the sense, not as an institution, you have to sustain from every point of view, the stakeholders, the parents, the learner, everyone has to sustain. And for the, if you just if you not plant a water, if you not water a plant, right, from the very small size to being a full tree, so you need to take care of that, no? So why not education? Education is a big plant. It's a big tree. It's a huge tree with a lot of branches, not with only one branch or one something like that. It is a huge concept. So we need to think over this. This is
Thank you,
the
sir.
yeah,
Thank
this
you
is
very
the
much,
purpose
sir.
of financing of education, right? So, dear learner participants, let me just say a little bit uh, sorry to all of you for inconvenience, because it was 4:30 which was decided, but due to discussion and other explanations it took a little more time. I'm also sorry to the next expert who is in queue for your sessions. Let me say thanks to all of you, especially to the one of the best universities or the educational institution, that is Indira Gandhi National Open University. Also to Dr. Jagdamba Prasad ji, Assistant Regional Director. And as far as your assignment is concerned, I will just mail it to the regional center, or I will write in the chat box in between, right? So it was all from my side. Thank you, everyone. And I'm waiting for next, you can say, sign from Dr. Jagdamba Prasad. Sir, over to you, please. Any suggestion or anything?